Okay, on this video I'm going to show you how to do a black and white process. We're going to use HP-5 film and I'm going to expose it all on a Hasselblad. So first things first, I'm going to show you how to load the magazine. Okay, so first things first, remove the insert from the magazine, swap the spool to the top edge, as you can see, like that. Here's the roll of film, so we have to remove the holding tape. Make sure you get all of it off because it can stick in the camera if you don't. Load it onto the bottom reel. Drag the lead of the film across to the top spool, and then you start to take up the slack on there. Also, there's a retaining clip here just in case your film gets snagged. So make sure that your film rebate goes underneath that little retainer. Next thing to do is to wind the film on so that you match up the arrows with that little red arrow there. Doesn't take much. There it is. You're ready to go. So pop that back into the magazine, lock it all in, make sure the dark slides in place, and then you have to wind it on so that that comes to the number 1 for your first exposure. And there you can see number 1 ready to shoot. Okay, so we've exposed the film. Make sure you secure it with the little bit of tape. Give it a lick, wrap it round so it's secure for when you take it back home. And we're going to start the process now. So what you need is a developing tank. This one's quite an old one, but they still do the same job. Inside, you've got a number of spools. Obviously, we've only got one film, so we only need one spool. Now, each of these spools changes size for different formats of film. So at the moment, obviously, that's set for 35mm. Just click it open, and there you go. All set for 120 film. As you can see, that's about the same width. Once you've got that all set, ideally you need a darkroom. And when I say darkroom, it's got to be absolutely dark, no light leak whatsoever, because these films are panchromatic. What panchromatic means, it's sensitive to any light whatsoever. Obviously not everybody's got a darkroom, so the next best thing is one of these changing bags, and I'll go through that in a minute. What I am going to do firstly is, using this old roll of film, just a dummy film, I'm just going to go through the steps that you take to actually load it on here, because some people find it quite tricky. So we'll have a look at how that happens. This is how we load a film. So the first thing to do, and obviously this all happens in the dark or in the changing bag here. Unloosen the rebate. Make sure you've got hold of your reel. And as you pull this, you'll notice the backing paper, and you'll feel it as you're doing it in the dark. Here's the start of the film. So there's your film, that's the backing paper. Just be careful when you're loading this that you don't load the backing paper onto the reel and discard the film. I've done it, everybody's done it. It's one of those things that happens, and it's part of the learning process, unfortunately, but it's a hard lesson to learn. Anyway, here we go. So get the film going, feed it through these little tabs here, and just as you get to this point, there's some ball bearings, and these ball bearings are what helps move the film along once you've got past that point on the actual spool. So we're there now, and you just keep clicking it and it'll move. Just be really careful with the film. really careful. It's quite delicate, obviously. You don't want to crease it or kink it in any way. Just gradually load it onto there. Nice and easy. And as you get towards the end of the film, as you can see here, it's still taped to the backing paper. So what you've got to do, just rip it off there, discard that, and then make sure the rest of the film is past the ball bearings on your reel. It is quite helpful to have a go at doing this in daylight so you can see what you're doing and understand the process. And that's all ready to process now. That's ready to go. So what you have to do, put it onto your spindle. Make sure it's at the bottom of the tank, because obviously that's where all the chemistry is going to sit. If you've got a large tank like I have, because obviously this is for doing more than one roll of film, pop it in there. Put the top on. Make sure it clicks into place so that it's secure. And now that film is light tight. So you can take it out of your changing bag now and you are ready to process. And every other step that you do can happen in full daylight. So now you've seen how to load a spool. I'm just going to go through the process of putting it in a bag as well, so you can actually see that happen. So you make sure you've got all your bits laid out in front of you so you've not forgotten anything. Spool, that's the core for the middle, obviously your tank, the top, and I would always recommend that you put the chemistry top in the bag as well. In case you panic, in case you have an accident, in case something goes wrong, you can just put the film in there, put the top on like that, and that'll be light tight in case you panic and have an accident and you just need to regroup and everything. And then put it back into the changing bag and just carry on. So we've got all our bits, we've got our film as well, and this is the changing bag. So you've got 2 parts for your arm to go in, and then at the opposite end is where you load it. So you've got a zip there, it's double lined so that it is completely light tight, so there's 2 zips there, and basically you just throw everything in here that you need to get yourself ready, to get yourself geared up to load your film. So all that's in there. Zip it all up. Make sure the zips are done up properly. You don't want any light getting in there. I've just got a snag on here. There we go. And I'll just put my arms in. Take your watch off, because obviously if it's old-fashioned watch like mine, it might have luminous hands. In you go. And the rest of it I'm going to speed up because this bit's quite boring because it all happens in the bag. Okay, so that's that loaded. So you've got your tank loaded, you're all ready to go. So the next thing to do is get your chemistry ready. Now I'm doing this in the dining room while my wife is out. She'd kill me. So make sure you've got something down to protect the surface of whatever table it is you're doing it on. So that's that bit done. Developer, I've already pre-mixed this. I use Ilford ID11 for this particular process. I've also got my fixer all ready and mixed up. And with fixer you can reuse this, so always save it, because you just pour it straight in from this mixed, 5 minutes whatever, and it's done. Whereas the developer, you would normally throw that away and then remix new to the right temperature. On the card with the ID11, is all the instructions on how to mix the process, how to mix the chemicals, and also times for the process. So for a 120 film, and on the base of the tank, it tells you how much chemistry you need for different sizes of film. So for a 120 film, you need 500 millilitres of chemistry. So what I'm doing with this, I'm going to do a 1-to-1 ratio. So half developer, half water, mix that to 20 degrees Celsius, and then away we go. And at that temperature and mix, that's a 13-minute development. So we're just going to go through that now. Need a timer. Okay, so we've got less than a minute to go now. So all the agitation's been done. I've now got all my chemistry ready. So I've got my fix measured out. I've got some water to act as my stop in between the fix and the dev, so there's no cross-contamination. And normally I would do this at the sink, but just for the purposes of this video, we're doing it at the table. And 20 seconds to go. So once the developer's out, you can discard that developer. It's unless you're prepared to work out the compensation for when you reuse it, which is so many minutes. Okay. This doesn't need too long in this wash or stop bath in between the two processes. As you'll discover, black and white processing is not as precise, or does not have to be as precise as colour processing. I wouldn't recommend colour processing really if you're really pernickety about your end result, because the temperatures have to be so exact. So that's the fix gone in. And I'll give that 5 minutes in there. And I'll see you in 5 minutes. So we're in the last few seconds of the process now for the fix. I've just moved over to the sink because this bit's just easier to do at the sink, because ultimately I need water. Last 10 seconds. Again, the fix, it doesn't have to be precise. I'm just giving it 5 minutes and I know that'll be fine. You can check this. If it's not right and the film base is still cloudy, you can always put it back in the fix again. So process over, let's just drain that off. And we'll keep that, put it back in the fixer tank. And now it's just a question of washing it. So that's been washing for a while now, so we're all done. So let's get the top off. And for the sake of this video, just put a bit of fairy liquid in there, a few drops, doesn't need much. And we'll just agitate that. And that just helps to prevent streaks when it's drying. So I'm a bit impatient, so let's have a quick look. And yeah, we've got an image, so I'm happy. And the best way to check whether your process is right or not is looking at the rebate. So where it says Ilford HP-5, if that's good and black and a solid, that means it's got a solid process. Right, this bit I'd normally do over the bath because it's messy, but I'll clear it up before the wife gets home. So we're going to take the film out, and there's our film. A pair of these squeegees if you can get a set, or you could just run it between your fingers like that. Just make sure they're wet so there's no grit on them, and just give it one squeegee, tip it the opposite way up, and then peg it. Either use pegs, or if you've got these weighted film clips, even better. And that is your film processed. And I'll put a few scans online after this video so you can see it.